Yo, what is up, or how you all doing? It is me, Just Rob Tech, and tonight we're just doing a quick answer to a question I got asked on one of my videos earlier, which was in relation to the PreSonus PD70 from FameStar, saying, could you share your EQ settings of the PD70, how to make it smooth like yours? So, rather than me jotting down the settings in the comments, I figured I'd just do this video for anybody else who wants to set up their microphone. So, basics first. So, my audio interface, as you can see, is set to about 3 o'clock on the dial. So that's the audio interface setting. If I then go to my record screen, so we'll go to settings first, and audio, you can see I'm set to 48 kilohertz. That's basically just the basics. Onto the meat and potatoes of all. This is basically the filters that I'm using. So we'll go to our filters. So first of all, we are using the gain boost. We've got it to 2.80. This is, you don't have to use this, but this is what I use for my preferences. Basically, the best way to adjust this is obviously lower it or higher it. And obviously, what you don't want to do is obviously peak, but I set mine to about 2.8 as I've got quite a loud voice. Next is on, we've got the compressor running. So I basically just left this all standard. I've just literally added this compressor to OBS. I've not really played around with any of the settings, but obviously if you want to tinker, then I'll go for it. The next one is you've got the noise suppression. Now I've got mine set to RNN noise, so good quality, more CPU usage. So obviously if you've got a decent CPU like I have, then feel free to use this. But if you're using like a lower core one, which I should imagine not many people are, then you can use the lower CPU usage. So the first major one, which you will need to get this sort of stuff extra, is a VS2 plugin. So I'm using Reaper plugins at the moment, and all I'm using is literally, I got this, I can't remember what the YouTube channel I've got, but obviously if you type in Reaper plugins how to, then you will find an absolute shed load of real helpful YouTubers that show you how to set up this. So I've basically just got a simple low pass filter. I think that's low pass filter, and I think I got a high pass filter. I seem to be both using. Oh yeah, the number one is the high pass filter, and number 4 I've got to a low pass filter. So basically this will just cut off any of the low frequencies and basically try and make the audio as flat as possible. So that's what the Reaper plugin EQ does. The next we've got is my settings for the Freeband equalizer. So for instance, my the high settings, so that the high tones in my voice, I've got to a minus 0.80, sorry. Mids I've boosted to 0.80, and the lows I've also boosted to 1.30. Now these were just basically a simple just mess around. I should imagine that, you know, if I really wanted to, I could have a real good play around to try and find, but I figured these are pretty decent to and then finally the limiter, which I've set to minus 3.60. So obviously you can see down here at the bottom screen, what you don't want it to do is get to near here. I just figured it's easier just to literally have it around here. So if I do talk really loud, then you can see it sort of cuts it off around here rather than going over here and then peaking and then sounding like a drowned squirrel. But yeah, so that is basically the plugins and EQ that I use for my microphones. Now the reason I don't tinker around is I quite like my voice sounding in a particular way, and I find that most of these microphones really do excel with that. So although your question was regarding the PD70, this works just as well as on the Donna P08, the AT2040 and various other microphones. The one thing it doesn't seem to work on really well is the DB30, but I do think the DB30 is probably just, it's a very dark sounding microphone, so I probably need to EQ that in a completely different way. But I hope this answered your question, mate. Thank you very much for asking.